So, okay, fine. So, we just saw the Figo video. Give people context.
So basically क्या हुआ था in the early 2000s, so Figo was like a big deal at Barcelona, like arguably the best player, and at that time the best player in the world also. He was always in the running for the Ballon d'Or, which is the best player in football gets that award. So Real Madrid have always been known as the team that buys all the superstars. So at that point, their president who got elected, his thing was, okay, I will buy the best player in the world, which is Figo. And usually between the biggest rivals, you don't really buy and sell players because they don't want to. उनका होता है कि नहीं आपस में एक दूसरे को exchange नहीं करेंगे. But a lot of things happened, a lot of coercion happened, and a lot of money was thrown at him. बहुत कुछ हुआ, मतलब that you can read about and everything, where they got him in a way, pressurized him also, and in some ways kind of extorted. There's allegations of that, and then he eventually agreed to move to, even though he kept saying in the media कि नहीं मैं नहीं जाऊँगा, Barcelona is my club, this that blah blah everything. He ended up moving to Real Madrid, and he instantly became the most hated player in the history of Barcelona. Even though other players have come and gone, but somehow Luis Figo is the most hated player in the history of Barcelona because of that. And like we saw in that video, like when he had this first match back at the Camp Nou, which is Barcelona's home ground, then people were saying some very vile stuff, like stuff that repeating it also feels weird just wrong to repeat it. And that pig's head is a famous thing where they threw a pig's head at him, and they were throwing so many things. He couldn't take a corner also because of that. Then Madrid, they've got other players to come and take the corner. So मतलब वो hostility इतना ज़्यादा था ना कि it became very difficult. Like he couldn't even go back to the city of Barcelona, and every time he would come play there, there was such and so many attacks and things. Luckily that time there was no social media, and I think or worse hota. But मतलब हाँ, he's even now they call him Judas basically. So he's basically Judas. Even though he came out with a documentary some time ago, Netflix पे, to try and explain कि नहीं ऐसा नहीं था, मैं मन नहीं था, but it was very clear in that like he wanted to go, and I think fans would have appreciated अगर उसने बोल दिया होता कि हाँ मेरे को जाना है, like Madrid is where I want to go. I think लोग उस बात को ज़्यादा रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं rather than saying कि मेरे को नहीं जाना है, this is my club, I love this club, and then suddenly people wake up and he's like, oh yeah, I've gone. I think that's why he got more hate.
So the reason why we are trying to explain this entire situation is because in light of whatever's happening with Pandya, a lot of parallels are of course being drawn between cricket fans and football fans. I think which is also for the first time this is happening because cricket fans have never really been known to be as vociferous as football fans, because I think ये franchises के साथ जो fans का alignment है वो भी इस level पे पहुंचा for the first time in the existence of the IPL, right? But I think what's also interesting is in our country cricketers are really revered, तो मतलब उनको बहुत ज़्यादा criticism तभी मिलता है जब बहुत बुरी तरह हार जाते हैं, which is where things get strange because Pandya ने before he could even play anything and win or lose, the criticism had already started, right? We'll come to all of that, but let's first go to the first Mumbai Indians match of this season of the IPL, where I think it was Kevin Peterson who said, I don't remember the last time an Indian cricketer was booed by the Indian crowd. True or false?
Of course false. I mean these kind of statements, they'll catch attention when you make them sound like an anomaly. Oh, never. But we all know, as Indians, we know ये पहले बहुत बार हो चुका है.
बहुत बार.
We all remember Rahul Dravid being booed at Eden Gardens in 2005 against South Africa, and we lost that match. This is when Ganguly was dropped, and obviously because that Chapel thing. And I was actually present at Wankhede when the same happened again with Dravid. भले 5-10 मिनट के लिए हुआ हो because Dravid was playing for RCB.
Dude, also, I mean, 5-10 minutes भी बहुत होता है because Dravid is Dravid.
Exactly. Imagine someone booing the nicest person in cricket.
The least controversial.
So he came to bat, and obviously Wankhede crowd booed him because he was an opposition player. That's cool. That is cool. In normal club football, like we were drawing parallels, but yeah, but again, Wankhede crowd is a little famous, I guess.
Or infamous.
Infamous for booing our cricketers. ये पहली बार नहीं हुआ. I mean, the greats. I mean, I know कि पांड्या को काफी boo कर रहे हैं, but if we look back at cricketers जिनको boo किया गया था, no disrespect to Pandya, but greater cricketers have been booed before.
Like?
At Wankhede. Kohli was booed यार मतलब 2013 में remember that run out that he did Ambati Rayudu को उसने direct hit किया था because he had Ambati Rayudu clashed with Vinay Kumar who was RCB's bowler and because of that he couldn't reach and obviously out कर दिया था Kohli ने direct hit and the crowd booed him cheater Kohli को cheater Kohli बोल रहे थे and obviously Kohli was not Kohli उस time में but still later on post match में भी Kohli ने बोला कि ना they should not forget कि he also plays for India
अच्छा बोले Kohli भाई साहब
नहीं
everyone because ultimately plays for India but I think this is also where there's that added anomaly ठीक है Dravid को boo किया when he wasn't playing for MI Kohli को boo किया when he wasn't playing for MI Pandya is being booed when he's playing for MI
I think what they've forgotten is they are booing Pandya not because they love Mumbai Indians also because of that but also because they love Rohit Sharma and at the moment उनका प्यार रोहित शर्मा के लिए ज्यादा है आई गेस मुंबई इंडियंस के लिए कम है बिकॉज उनको ये नहीं बोलना चाहिए कि रोहित शर्मा मुंबई इंडियंस के लिए ही खेल रहा है एंड बूइंग पांड्या इज नॉट हेल्पिंग द टीम एंड रोहित शर्मा भी हार रहा है ही इज इन दैट टीम उसको भी बहुत बुरा लग रहा है आई मीन कम ऑन ही इज प्लेइंग फॉर दैट टीम सो आई डोंट थिंक दिस इज they have to think they actually don't know right now कि वो बू करने से क्या हो रहा है सब कर रहे हैं मजा आ रहा है हम लोग बू करेंगे पांड्या हट वो सब चल रहा है बट
क्या आ गए
eventually
मैं साक्षात दर्शन हो जाते हैं
वानखेड़े क्राउड उनको जब भी मन करता है वो लोग बोर होते हैं ना लोग बू कर लेते हैं किसी को तेंदुलकर को बू किया था remember that rough that bad patch he was going through 2006
हां 2006 मैं वही कहना था कि वो कोई एक certain period था when he was going through a bad time जब सब बोलने अरे रिटायर होना चाहिए which is when he came back and then obviously ended up winning the World Cup 2011 में but एक period आया था जब एक dip आया था तो अरे नहीं रिटायर कर जाना चाहिए खुद सोचो Wankhede like that's your home crowd मतलब वो लोग सचिन तेंदुलकर को बू कर सकते तो फिर तो किसी को भी कर सकते हैं ना आई थिंक नहीं
they were chanting Endulkar imagine
हाँ
क्या
they were chanting Endulkar
यार Wankhede
भगवान से डरो यार
भगवान को ही बोल रहे हैं
क्या चीज है यार मुंबई to take your life seriously
that's actually blasphemy
क्या कहें मुंबई ने परोस दिया मैच परोस के हथाली में दे दिया आरआर के और क्या कहेंगे पांड्या को बनाया ना कैप्टन इसलिए हार गए रोहित को कैप्टन बनाते तो आराम से जीत जाते
आज हार गए बस हार्दिक को कैप्टेंसी से हटा दो जीत जाएगी मुंबई
मेक रोहित शर्मा द कैप्टन नॉट हार्दिक के बंदा दैट्स इट
पांड्या को हटाओ पांड्या को अरे क्या है एटीट्यूड करता है ऐसा
हार्दिक पांड्या को खुद बैठना चाहिए तो ही मुंबई इंडियंस जीत सकती है बस यही बोलना है
I think one thing that became very clear from videos like this was कि अहमदाबाद के बाद जब मैच हुआ था तो ऐसे लग रहा था जैसे मे बी द अहमदाबाद होम क्राउड इज बूइंग हिम बिकॉज ही इज लेफ्ट देम राइट देयर वाज स्टिल अनसर्टेनिटी ऑफ एग्जैक्टली हु इज बूइंग हिम ही कम्स टू Wankhede to play and the home crowd boos him also okay before we talk about any of his captaincy decisions tell me do you agree with the fans anger is the fans anger valid
देख मैं तो एज एन MI फैन बोलूँगा कि इन अ वे मतलब एंगर जस्टिफाइड है नहीं वो पता नहीं बट एप्रीहेंशन डेफिनेटली जस्टिफाइड है क्योंकि मेरे को भी था वो क्योंकि लाइक आई थिंक वी हैड कॉल बैक टू एपिसोड 1 में ये बात बोली भी थी कि जब ऑलरेडी कोई सेट कैप्टन है तो क्यों चेंज करना है एंड यू वॉन 5 टाइटल्स विद हिम ही इज डूइंग वेल इंडियन टीम का कैप्टन है इन ऑल 3 फॉर्मेट्स अभी सक्सेशन प्लानिंग CSK का समझ में आता है बिकॉज पीपल थिंक कि धोनी माइट रिटायर मे बी नेक्स्ट ईयर मे बी ही माइट प्ले वन मोर टाइम तो वहाँ पे समझ में आता है बट अभी रोहित शर्मा इज एट द पीक ऑफ हिज गेम कहाँ जाने वाले हो ही इज नॉट गोइंग एनीवेयर सो व्हाई अननेसेसरी डू दिस सक्सेशन प्लानिंग एंड सो आई जस्ट read an interview मार्क बाचर का a few days ago या कल ही पढ़ा था आई थिंक एंड ही वाज सेइंग कि नहीं हम लोगों ने ये डिसीजन इसलिए लिया है सो रोहित शर्मा कैन प्ले फ्रीली एंड ही हैजंट रियली I think we talked about it also कि इतने रन नहीं बनाए जितना he scores in internationals and things and I was like it doesn't really matter अगर even if he scores less runs अगर he's leading the team to the title तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है मतलब रोहित शर्मा is at that position where he's consistently scoring on the international stage तो ऐसा तो नहीं है कि IPL में अच्छा नहीं खेला तो अरे रोहित शर्मा को लेके जाएंगे कि नहीं of course वो लेके जाएंगे and it's not like अभी तक he wasn't scoring at all he's still doing well ठीक है maybe not to the heights of others like Kohli but he's still performing well और अगर जीते हैं तो फिर क्यों winning formula को बिना में change करना
Do you think they're going to sell Rohit Sharma next season इसलिए हार्दिक पांड्या
that could be a big possibility because see
which also I don't understand but
again
no see I'll tell you what I actually disagree with you with regards to the whole succession thing because एक तो next year mega auction है. We still don't know how many players each team will be able to retain. ठीक है? उस हिसाब से देखा जाए तो then whom they choose to retain, whom they don't manage to, in spite of even wanting to, because that's also happened with Pandya, right? In an ideal world, they would have wanted to retain him, but they had limitations of numbers. तो वो सारा कुछ pre-plan करना पड़ेगा. And उस हिसाब से देखा जाए तो yes, I think their timing became wrong because this came in the immediate aftermath of a very successful World Cup. But there have also been suggestions that maybe this was something that happened long before the World Cup had even started.
Also, I guess fans are more angry because he was not in MI when they made him the captain. And we had Mumbai Indians had Bumrah. Surya Kumar Yadav was the vice captain. So I think fans और ज़्यादा भड़क गए because obviously Rohit Sharma, whatever World Cup he had, the love for him just grew, skyrocketed.
Actually, yeah.
And then we had Bumrah, Surya Kumar. So it wasn't the case that they didn't have players who could take on the captaincy, but they thought, okay, we'll bring in someone who has that record, जिसने अच्छा किया है captaincy को लेकर. But वही उसने और World Cup भी नहीं खेला पांड्या ने. अगर पांड्या का वर्ल्ड कप अगर वो खेलता वर्ल्ड कप एंड इफ ही हैड अ गुड वर्ल्ड कप तो आई डोंट थिंक उतना गुस्सा आता मे बी. तो बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स है एंड ऑब्वियसली फिर टाइमिंग एंड वर्ल्ड कप के टाइम पे ही आई थिंक ये थोड़ा बहुत नॉइज चल रहा था इसका कि ना ये बनेगा नहीं बनेगा. फिर जीटी को लेकर वापस आ रहा है तो इट डिडंट फील लाइक वन ऑफ आवर ओन इज बिकमिंग द कैप्टन. मे बी दैट्स व्हाई द एंगर इज देयर एंड ऑल्सो आई वुडंट ब्लेम पांड्या. आई डोंट नो क्या हुआ उसके और जीटी के बीच, बट जो लोग बू कर रहे हैं उनसे एक क्वेश्चन है मेरा कि कौन है तुम लोगों में से जो एक इंक्रीमेंट नहीं चाहेगा इफ यू हैव परफॉर्म्ड वेल. हु वुडंट वांट टू टेक ऑन अ बिगर जॉब. नो ऑफेंस टू जीटी बट मुंबई इज मुंबई.
इसको बोलना होता है ना कि मुंबई इज मुंबई.
आई थिंक बू करने से पहले एक बार सोच लो कि whether Pandya is wrong in taking this decision and if anything they could be a little upset with the franchisee regarding the timing of it. They could have handled it better, I guess. I think अभी वो लोग भी सोच रहे होंगे कि timing थोड़ा better होता है, तरीका थोड़ा better होता maybe. I don't know how, but
अगर fans इतने reasonable होते हैं ना sport के तो भाई.
ना वो तो है, वो तो fans
reasonable नहीं होते
can't
sport
expect.
But I'll tell you what you said about the franchise is applicable to fans also. तरीका थोड़ा सा better होता.
Of course.
So then maybe things could have been handled
like
in
I said,
a
it's
much
not
more
helping their
reasonable
team
way.
eventually. Mumbai Indians are not performing well because the captain is under confidence. उसने bowling भी नहीं किया ना last match.
Exactly.
That tells you something about जितना भी कितना भी वो strong हो mentally, but सबको फर्क पड़ता है यार.
यार definitely पड़ेगा.
100%.
उसकी body language से पता चलता है. In fact, I'll tell you what. Do you remember what things were like when Rohit Sharma was made captain? Because even back then, yes, Ponting was stepping down, but there was still Tendulkar in the team. Yes, he had formerly been the captain, but I'm sure there were people who thought, यार ये कौन है? Because Rohit Sharma had not captained any side before, but मिला ना उसको मौका.
But I think situation हुई कि उस टाइम पे इतना desperate था ना कि कुछ नहीं चल रहा था. मतलब मुंबई इतना बुरी तरह से हार रहा था कि Sachin had been captain before and clearly didn't want to continue doing that. Ponting was not performing. Harbhajan Singh had been captain in the Champions Trophy. तो वही था कि मतलब I think in a way it felt like that time it felt maybe कि हाँ succession is okay because you got this young Indian player जो अच्छा खेल रहा है. And at that point honestly ये था कि कोई भी चलेगा कि कुछ तो हो.
Also,
and it worked because then he won so many matches. The last 9 matches में I think they won 7 and then they qualified and they won the IPL. तो immediate results आए थे. तो वही था कि अभी यहाँ पे ये कि everything is established अच्छा चल रहा है. I think that's also the problem is कि जब सबको अच्छा चल रहा है तो क्यों बिना में change करना है. That time was like कि भाई desperately कुछ चाहिए. तो you cling on to everything.
So I guess the more you support a club, the more your anger is when the club takes a bad decision. जैसे कि फुटबॉल में हम लोग देखते हैं वो लोग इतना angry होते हैं because वो club इतने time से चल रहा है.
ले आ चेल्सी का नाम.
उसके लिए बोला
इसको बाहर चाहिए होता.
जब भी शर्मा को बनाया they hadn't won anything.
हाँ.
And we were in the 5th or 6th season of IPL 2013. ठीक है तो मुंबई इंडियंस वो ब्रांड भी वो लव भी उतना obviously we loved our team but उतना ग्रो नहीं हुआ था कि
और मत बोल तू केकेआर का फैन है.
याद है
लोगों को याद है
कहीं ना कहीं वो सॉफ्ट कॉर्नर होता है
लोगों को याद है.
तो वो अभी इतना हो रहा है because they won so many titles under Rohit Sharma. He's not the captain. इसीलिए.
You think they're also maybe somewhere getting more triggered because they're also being called out for expressing their anger?
हाँ होता ही है because अगर तुमको बोलो कि बू नहीं करो तो और करेंगे ना. It's like भाई कौन होते हो कोई who is anybody to tell me how to feel. If I'm feeling a certain way then I'm expressing it.
करके आते हैं.
हाँ पे करके आता है. सब फ्री में थोड़ी ना बुलाया मेरे को ट्रक में भर के कि चलो नहीं आओ ऐसा कर दे.
No, but okay. So Sanjay Manjrekhar's behave also garnered a lot of attention, right? But do you think that he was also coming from देख sideline पे बैठकर जो भी देख रहा है nobody likes it, right? Because they all feel for him. He's an ex-sports person himself. He sees what he's going through and he knows, I think, better than any of us sitting over here how it must affect him psychologically.
From an athlete's point of view.
Right?
I think that was coming from there.
Exactly. तो अगर वो आ रहा है and he thinks that, you know what, I am someone who's been in touch with these audience for a very long time. So I do have a certain sort of वो औधा कहते हैं ना कि मतलब मेरी जगह है where I can actually ask this of the crowd. Now of course whether he gets it or not is a different thing. But I don't think he was wrong per se in requesting that in that moment.
I think a better way would have been to just not to say behave. Obviously, but to say something like, you know, your team needs your support. Cheer for them.
Because being behave is more like you're instructing me कि तुम ऐसे behave करो.
Yeah,
but as a fan, especially जब emotions high है, you have to remember कि ये लोग ऐसा logical thinking से नहीं अच्छा तुम क्या बोलोगे सुनना है मेरे को. नहीं, वो लोग already वो गुस्से से
and fans cheer कर रहे थे when Hardik Pandya was counter attacking the last match. He got out eventually, but वो जब ही आ रहा था बू कर रहे थे, लेकिन जब ही वो शॉट्स खेल रहा था फ्रीली क्राउड चीयर कर रहा था. तो वो एक दो मैच की बात है यार.
Honestly, इस रट से निकलने का तरीका वो है कि परफॉर्म करना शुरू करोगे तो सब भूल जाएंगे. That's how sports fans are.
यार पता है यार, I'm worried about that because some of the tweets that you see ना, like there was one that I was seeing, he got out and he was walking back towards the pavilion and they were chanting incessantly at him. मतलब the sort of stoicism it will take na to stand up against that is just going to be I don't know what kind of stoicism it will take. So पता नहीं उस हिसाब से.
But maybe he'll come out stronger because of that. Who knows?
I think as a society,
if we look at it in that way, maybe the positive thing is that maybe he'll come out stronger because of it.
I think the society loves when someone fails. That's a very sad thing about today's time. We celebrate our heroes winning trophies and doing good things, but we also celebrate the failures of people, especially who have that attitude, who show that passion more than others. कोहली को कितना बोलते थे एक टाइम पे, because the passionate था.
Till last year.
अब तक बोलते हैं. I'm sure हर fan base एक section होता है जो अभी भी बू करते होंगे कोहली को, अभी भी शर्मा को बू करते हैं. तो वो I think वो लोग वेट करते हैं कि एक फ्लॉप इनिंग्स आए, एक डाउनफॉल हो, बू करेंगे. We celebrate failures and that's a problem.
You know what, on that note actually, so Mumbai have lost 3 matches on the run, right? Back in 2022 they lost 8 matches. ठीक है. Talk about this season only, RCB have lost 3 of their matches, including 2 at home. Why isn't anyone also talking about, you know, that captaincy? There's all of this ire is targeted at only this one.
RCB जीतता नहीं है ना. जो चैंपियन टीम है उस पे ज्यादा प्रेशर होगा ना. अब आरसीबी जीतेगा तो प्रेशर बढ़ेगा ना उन पे.
I think वहाँ
I'm sorry to say but उससे फर्क पड़ता है. अब फुटबॉल में कोई ऐसा रेलीगेशन फाइटिंग वाला क्लब हारता रहेगा तो ठीक है, वो तो हारते ही हैं. वो लोग कौन सा प्रीमियर लीग कभी जीते हैं?
जिससे चेल्सी.
हाँ नहीं, चेल्सी
अभी फिलहाल
चेल्सी जीतना है. ऐसा ये सब शुरू नहीं करने का इधर.
अच्छा ठीक है.
बट कोई ऐसा एवर्टन जैसे कोई क्लब हो and as opposed to it लिवरपूल ऐसा हो तो obviously लिवरपूल पे ज्यादा प्रेशर पड़ेगा because they are a winning team. तो सेम विद मुंबई. अब मुंबई विनिंग टीम है. अब आरसीबी नहीं जीतता, ठीक है, आदत पड़ गई उनके फैंस को, ये पता है हारने वाले हैं, ठीक है, अच्छा थोड़ा खेलेंगे फिर नहीं.
कोहली के अंडर भी अगर आरसीबी 3-4 बार जीता होता, सडनली आफ्टर अ गुड परफॉर्मेंस, अ गुड सीजन, सडनली कोहली को भी ड्रॉप करते फ्रॉम कैप्टेंसी,
सेम रिएक्शन होता ना कि हमारे विनिंग कैप्टन क्यों उठा रहे. और ये तो इंडिया का कैप्टन भी है. Rohit Sharma is India's captain in all formats.
I still think that he needs to be given a chance. I know you guys are not saying that, but I'm just saying कि वो मतलब बहुत सारे fans ने ना it's like they've made that decision कि हम इसको मौका देने नहीं वाले.
वही क्या, I think we understand this side also, we understand the fans reaction also. The only way ये solve होगा is you start winning. जीतोगे हर चीज का सोल्यूशन स्पोर्ट में वही है, जीतना शुरू करोगे तो
ये मेमोरी बहुत ही वीक होता है फैंस का,
हाँ।
कौन कैसे परफॉर्म करता है,
सब
एक
भूल
बैड
जाते हैं।
परफॉर्मेंस पूरा जो भी अच्छा किया है सब भूल जाएंगे,
जाएंगे।
टू
हाँ,
ग्रेट
good
परफॉर्मेंसेस भूल जाएंगे.
Okay. So let's also talk about his captaincy. What are the actual decisions that he's taken? Because he has, of course, earned quite a lot of criticism there as well. Which decision of his for you has been the most questionable?
I think मैं तो right off the bat वही था, but Bumrah not bowling in the power play.
Not
I
bowling
think-
enough in the power
हाँ,
play.
not bowling enough in the power play. वही था, because I mean up front best bowler who
In the
doesn't
world.
let them score, doesn't let the opposition score, wickets भी लेता है, मतलब और क्या चाहिए, मतलब best bowler in the world definitely.
Like I
Why
understand,
would you not use
I
it?
understand their strategy of, okay, you don't want to depend on Bumrah, you want him to bowl in the death overs, so you are saving him for death overs, but you also need to have good enough bowlers to bowl up front, because power play में batsmen attack करेंगे, ठीक है? और 17-year-old को, I mean, give him the chance, no problem, but when he is being bashed, you don't wait. Next over you bring in Bumrah, because batsman अगर power play में बुमराह 2 ओवर डाला तो आई एम श्योर पूरा 2 ओवर बैट्समैन टिक टिक टुक टुक करके नहीं खेलेंगे, बिकॉज यू नीड टू अटैक इन द पावर प्ले, एंड वो 2 ओवर अगर बुमराह से स्टार्ट किया देन थोड़ा प्रेशर आ गया बैट्समैन पे टू स्कोर, यू नो, बिकॉज इतना इजी नहीं है बुमराह को स्कोर करना. देन यू कैन ब्रिंग इन द यंग प्लेयर्स, बिकॉज बैट्समैन ऑलरेडी प्रेशर में, एंड देन दे विल ऑब्वियसली गो अगेंस्ट.
और काफी बार you set up for somebody else also.
Yeah.
बुमराह के ओवर में रन नहीं बने तो अगले
Right.
ओवर में माने चक्कर में कभी कभी दूसरे बॉलर को विकेट मिलता है, तो
Correct.
you फील कि हाँ इसको विकेट मिला है, बट एक्चुअली सेटअप किसी और ने किया है, मतलब that's how a team functions. तो ये सब फायदे भी होते हैं, तो इसलिए थोड़ा अजीब भी लगा, मतलब it clearly backfired badly.
Especially in that Sunrisers game, because apparently their strategy was to keep Bumrah for Klassen. Okay, but Bumrah को उन्होंने 3rd ओवर दिया, 4th ओवर दिया, उसके बाद he came directly in the 13th ओवर, तब तक स्कोर 173 हो चुका था,
खत्म
You
हो
already
चुका
lost the game.
गेम. हाँ, एक्चुअली ये चीज 2023 वर्ल्ड कप में भी हुआ था with बाबर आजम. आई रिमेंबर वन ऑफ द मैचेस आई वॉच्ड जिसमें पाकिस्तान was bowling first, and they had the opposition, मतलब काफी wickets early on गिर गए थे. I think Shaheen had taken some wickets early on, and the other team was in a difficult position. या तो I think Australia के against था, because it was like between these two teams, whoever wins will get into the top 4. But क्या बाबर ने शाहीन को ला ही नहीं रहा था, like he kept waiting कि नहीं बाद के overs में डालेंगे, but उसके चक्कर में Australia started building that partnership again, and by the time Shaheen आया in the 40th over, because 50 overs में 40th over time में आया, तब तक already batsmen settle हो चुके थे, you know, and it became too late. And I remember that time one of the commentators had pointed this out कि why, मतलब अगर तुमने already 3-4 विकेट ले लिए तो अटैक करो, खत्म कर दो ना, क्यों तुम बाद के लिए रख रहे हो, and which is something great जो रोहित शर्मा ने किया था, because some other match यही discussion हुआ था, and some of the commentators said this exact same thing कि इस मैच में like Bumrah was bowling in the 20-something 30-something over, because शर्मा ने सोच के रखा था कि खत्म करो, ऑलरेडी इन लोगों के इतने विकेट गिर गए हैं. सो दैट्स द थिंग, लाइक प्लेइंग अटैकिंग, पहले से आप डिफेंसिव खेलोगे तो देन इट्स अ बिग रिस्क. और
20 overs,
20 overs
and you lost the game.
So, but also after the first match, Kyron Pollard said that Hardik Pandya opened the bowling because for GT he used to open the bowling because he has the ability to swing the ball. Where do you stand on that? Because clearly there's some sort of strategic thinking, but then there's also the points that you guys made.
I understand. Obviously, ये सिर्फ पांड्या का decision नहीं है. The entire team sits and decides, the leadership team, they sit and decide कि किसको opening bowling देना है. तो I'm sure ये पूरा सबका decision होगा. I'm sure Pandya has a say in that. कि someone else will open the bowling and will save Bumrah. And I agree, Pandya का वो decision, he swings. Okay, bring him in. But when it's not going right for you, they also need to be proactive, right? एक plan होता है, you follow the plan if it works. But if it doesn't work, you have to make changes, and you have the best bowler in the world.
हाँ. That's like मैं बस मेसी बेंच पे बैठा, पर नहीं मैं नहीं खिलाऊंगा, एंड में लाऊंगा गोल
penalty
मार.
मार.
हाँ, penalty.
Then there was also the question of
And he
Akash
did,
Mandal.
going back to that swing thing, he didn't bowl at the Wankhede, where it was actually swinging. He didn't bowl a single over.
Which actually maybe says a lot about how his confidence is already getting affected,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Because otherwise he would have definitely taken the ball over there.
100%.
What are you doing, Wankhede crowd? Yeah. Easy,
वो
yeah.
हमेशा से ऐसा ही है. Wankhede is very like demanding.
And you don't want to break the back of someone who's ultimately a legit all-rounder for India. is my
वो
point. It's damn
अभी
scary.
everybody is thinking franchise. अभी लोग वहाँ तक पहुँचे नहीं. अभी सब लोग franchise के बारे में सोचे. अभी ये नहीं सोचे कि अब
अबे
अगर-
IPL के थोड़े से दिनों बाद T20 वर्ल्ड कप शुरू
अभी
होगा.
I know मतलब मेरे को बार-बार फुटबॉल पे नहीं जाना, but that's the one that I know best because इंग्लिश प्लेयर्स के साथ भी ये होता था प्रीमियर लीग में. इवन दो वर्ल्ड कप आने वाला है,
Beckham,
इतना
Beckham's incident?
इतना क्रिटिसाइज करते थे मीडिया में, इसमें उसमें गालियां ये वो, लाइक इनसेन. एंड दिस गाय इज गोना प्ले फॉर यू 2-3 months later in the World Cup. बट वो ऐसे ही होता है बिकॉज उस टाइम अभी फैंस का दिमाग अभी सिर्फ आईपीएल में, अभी नहीं सोचे इंडिया एंड वो अलग चीज है. राइट नाउ एवरीबडी इज जस्ट फोकस्ड ऑन दिस. तो यहाँ पे तुम अच्छा नहीं कर रहे हो तो नहीं छोड़ेंगे फिर. दैट्स जस्ट हाउ इट इज. आई थिंक ये थोड़ा नया भी है ना इंडिया के लिए, मतलब होल क्रिकेट, स्पेशली क्रिकेट के लिए, बिकॉज फ्रैंचाइज क्रिकेट हमेशा इंटरनेशनली होता था ना. पहली बार मतलब इन अ वे हम लोग डोमेस्टिक क्रिकेट देख रहे हैं जो फुटबॉल में पीपल आर यूज्ड टू. तो
Also we're in the 17th year, right?
Yes.
2008 में शुरू हुआ था
It's
ना.
been quite a while now, so वही काफी टाइम हो चुका है, थोड़ा ज्यादा अपना सा लगता है.
हाँ.
I think it's also actually only from that perspective, no other perspective. I think it's also nice to see that there's loyalty towards the franchises also. थोड़ी बहुत है because next year again people are going to be moved around a lot. So then you don't want. कितने सारे लोग openly कहते हैं कि जब धोनी चेन्नई के लिए नहीं खेलेगा मैं चेन्नई को नहीं support.
अभी बहुत होगा वो, और देखने मिलेगा because बहुत सारी टीम्स बहुत सारे ऐसे प्लेयर्स को सेल करेंगे, कर सकते हैं जो ऑलरेडी एक लेगेसी बना चुका हो.
Correct.
बट दे हैव टू मूव ऑन, और ऑब्वियसली क्रिटिसिज्म उसके लिए भी मिलेगा. बट अगेन दैट प्लेयर नीड्स टू परफॉर्म फॉर द न्यू क्लब, एंड ये चलते रहेगा. ये फैंस का भी चलते रहेगा, ये प्लेयर्स का भी होते रहेगा, तो साइकिल है.
So then, which is why maybe it's good that fans are definitely taking up with franchises far more than the players themselves.
हाँ, लेकिन ये फालतू में गाली देना थोड़ा ज्यादा हो गया. आई मीन कब.
So okay, so then let's look at also the changes that he's made, right? Because अभी तक उसने पहले 2 matches में some questionable decisions. Then we come to the third match, जहाँ पर the bowling is again opened by Mafaka, but then you see Bumrah come in the second over and then he bowls 3 overs on the trot. So you see those sort of changes being made. So you think he's sort of coming back to a tried and tested formula because he knows that whatever he's tried may not necessarily be working, even though there is due thought that's been put into it.
हाँ, because I think especially अभी situation थोड़ी ऐसी हो गई ना कि 3 मैच हार गए हैं. So now it's like what mostly natural response ये होता है ना कि जब कुछ नया ट्राई करते हो and it doesn't work, तो immediately होता है कि अच्छा let's go back to doing what we used to do. At least वो safe था, उससे कुछ तो चला था. तो वो I think वो natural response है कि they're going to go back to that. But I also feel कि मतलब in support of Hardik and the management team, like I hope that they don't completely change their approach. अगर कुछ सोच के आए हैं तो ठीक है, कोई changes करो. That's why I said कि proactive बनो, like ठीक है, like make Bumrah bowl more in the power play and everything. But अगर कोई strategy सोच के आया तो I feel कि completely उसको मतलब don't just throw it in the bin after 3 matches. क्योंकि अगर तुम कुछ सोच के आया तो stick to it. Obviously उसमें changes करो because वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा. But I just hope they don't completely discard जो भी लोग tactics और planning करके आए थे. I just hope, because I think उससे और खराब होगा. I feel.
Like Mafaka took a wicket. They were ball के and they could still go back to it. But again, if it's not working, then you always have Bumrah. Third over, 5th over. 2 over at least power play में डाल सकते. Come on.
Definitely.
And you have Coates.
And then Pandya can also come.
Pandya वही मैं first second Pandya में सोच रहा था मतलब because they've tried that initially, तो उन लोगों ने proper planning किया है. They had decided to go with this कि ठीक है चलो पावर प्ले में बुमराह से जितना कम हो सके उतना बॉलिंग करेंगे, because जैसे मलिंगा के साथ यूज करते थे एक बार. They used to keep some 3 overs or something end में, तो हमको उस टाइम पे पता था कि कोई opposition टीम मार नहीं पाएगा. Same strategy यूज कर रहे थे, but opening में भी लोगों को perform करना पड़ेगा for बुमराह to take upon that role completely. वो कर करके, but again कोई टीम अगर अटैक कर रहा है तो बुमराह को लाना पड़ेगा. सॉरी
उससे मलिंगा के साथ I think Zaher Khan है ना उस टाइम पे. Zaher Khan used to open, who was also a legendary bowler. तो वही था कि ठीक है, you could lean on Zaher Khan more, जिससे मलिंगा बाद में bowling कर सकता है. I think Zaher Khan ही था.
You need other bowlers to step up also for Bumrah to थोड़ा enjoy करके आराम से बाद में.
And good, and this could be that
It
distribution of
can develop the
responsibility.
team. Yeah.
No, so what do you also make of his batting changes? Because in the first match, of course, he came much lower down in the order. Was criticized a lot for it. फिर दूसरे मैच से ऊपर आने लग गया.
I think ऊपर ही आना चाहिए because गुजरात के लिए भी he was doing that, and now as captain, and he's a good enough player to. He's not just someone like a Tim David or something जो end में एकदम आएगा कि मैं 3-4 ओवर ही खेल सकता हूँ. उससे ज़्यादा capability नहीं है because नहीं है उसकी.
और मैं सिर्फ
and Tim David की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. And but Hardik Pandya is a very good batsman. Even if he comes at the 8th over or 10th over, तो आराम से वो he can also play the shots, rotate, strike, and also he can hit the sixes. So आना ही चाहिए because responsibilities ऐसी तो लोगे as a captain.
Also, especially when they don't have Surya Kumar Yadav,
Ah,
because
right.
he's very good at counter attacking, and Pandya is also very good at counter, which we saw in the last match. वो out हो गया again, but मतलब
There was a spark.
Yeah, we saw that counter attacking, and it almost worked for Mumbai. But he came in a little late. तब तक Tilak Verma is in good form. He's playing well, but Brevis and Tim David.
कट्टा ले वो दोनों हटाओ पे नहीं होता है मेरे से.
So yeah, तो
Brevis तो भाई वो तो.
अरे Brevis was an impact player. बेचारे को he didn't even have
कुछ impact नहीं उस आदमी का.
he
Impact player के नाम पे
hardly
कलर
had
तो
any due
उसको थोड़ा
notice.
blue करना
मतलब
पड़ेगा.
वो बेचारा बैठा होगा कि मैं शायद आज खेलूंगा भी नहीं because I'm sure they were they intended to bring in a bowler as an impact player, then suddenly they had so many wickets down there like
that is what Pandya should have stepped up and
नहीं उन दोनों को तो सबसे हटाओ. कलंक के आदमी बिल्कुल इम्पैक्ट प्लेयर नहीं आदमी वेस्ट है और
and हो गया लोग power hitters and all, but IPL अलग है. Pandya has been successful in IPL. He knows how to play up the orders. Why not यार, मतलब when your team is not performing, perform.
वो एक इनिंग्स ऐसे खेल लेगा ना which he wins it for them, सब फैंस भूल जाएंगे. That's it. It's just वो एक इनिंग्स है बस. वो उस दिन हो गया होता ना तो सब अभी खत्म हो गया.
उस दिन cheer तो करना शुरू कर ही दिया था.
Already आने वाले ना तो वही है वो एक इनिंग्स की बात है बस that he plays and he wins the match for them. खत्म.
Remember again going back to football, David Beckham was booed for his reckless red card, right?
Yes.
And what
In
happened?
the World Cup.
What happened?
Give
Euros
context.
qualification.
Give context.
In the World Cup, he had gotten a red card. And obviously the England crowd booed him. When he came back to Man United, he was booed. But what he did, Euros का qualification था, right? So last minute, Euros या World Cup का कुछ qualification match चल रहा था. England needed to win. Last minute free kick मिलता है.
right.
Beckham takes the free kick and he scores. सब भूल गए. सब it's Beckham. ऐसा कोई छोटा player भी नहीं है.
But as long as he's getting this sort of criticism, I know it's also very easy to say, "Acha, don't look at your phone." But this is not just using your phone or choosing to stay away from it. This is following him on the ground on match to match basis.
नहीं भाग सकते ना उससे, especially with social media these days. आपकी family है वो किसी को तो दिखेगा ना, मतलब कहाँ भागोगे आप?
And the sad thing is they also target the family when these things happen. They don't just talk about the players. They target their family members and ये सब चलते रहता है. तो I'm sure Pandya is also someone जो tweets देख के he gets riled up and he feels कि मैं दिखाता हूँ. I'm sure वो होना भी चाहिए.
हो रहा है हाँ.
Because you can't avoid social media these days. That आएगा एक दिन.
वही social media का एक drawback तो ये है कि you can't shut it off. मतलब वो रहेगा ही. The only way to do it is वही कि अच्छा खेलोगे तभी ये होगा. And this is the
last year Yash Dayal, when he'd gotten hit for those 5 6s by Rinku Singh, he'd been told to stay away from social media. He didn't, and he actually fell sick. I don't know if you guys remember. He didn't play for a series of matches after that. फिर बहुत लंबे गैप के बाद वापस आया था to bowl again because he just wasn't able to handle it. So it can catch up with people.
इसे आजकल mental health के बारे में बहुत discussion भी हो रहा है ना with players, with mental health, with like again coming back to football. Richarlison after the World Cup, Brazil went out. It was a big disappointment. And he had that interview where he talked very candidly about the amount of pressure that because Brazil में it's football is like जैसे इंडिया में cricket है, हार गए तो मतलब it's like दुनिया खत्म हो गई, ऐसा होता है. तो he went through that pressure, so he talked about it, how difficult it was to go home, to sleep, to eat. He just couldn't. That's why he didn't play for a while. तो आजकल वही हो गया है because ये थोड़ा negative भी है sport का, मतलब modern sport का with social media and everything कि ये सब harassment, bullying. It's not just the players, like he said, families, सब लोग के ऊपर होता है. तो it affects them, sadly. But वो है कि वो उसको forcefully बंद नहीं कर सकते आप, like saying कि नहीं ऐसा मत करो because वो और करेंगे. So
like
that's just how it is.
We have an example in IPL only. Last year Riyan Parag was criticized for his attitude and वो काफी हद तक you can say it was justified because he was shouting, showing attitude to senior players and he was not performing. एक time पे I had read a tweet जहाँ पर किसी ने mention किया था कि Rajasthan has 5 batsmen, 5 bowlers and Riyan Parag.
Joy Bhattacharya.
अच्छा. So what happened? He didn't perform, but look at him this season. He's simply focused on his batting and he has the orange cap.
Massive comeback. That's like the sort of comeback you want to absolutely
You see his
salute.
post-match interview, he was almost in tears.
Yeah.
He was affected, but he channelized it, and he's performing. He's worked on his cricket, and look at him right now. He's the best example right now.
But is there any athlete who's succumbed to the pressure and just left the arena and been like, "मैं नहीं कर रहा, I'm out"?
I guess the biggest example is in football. Messi, when he 2016 is when he quit. Like they lost. So 2014 the World Cup final they lost. Then 2015 the Copa America final they lost. Then 2016 again the Copa America final. So 3 years in a row he lost 3 finals. And the pressure is just building. And again with social media and thing, everybody started saying nahi, he bottles it at the big stage. Nahi hota hai. And he cares more about his club. He doesn't care about his country. His own country people were criticizing him. And to the point where even people like Diego Maradona were respect to him, for whatever he was as a player, but people forget that he was very mean to Messi also at that time, and he said a lot of rubbish things also at that time, which log ab bhul jate hain because like he passed away and thing, and no disrespect to him, but at that point he was also behaving like one of those people, so to uspe itna pressure hua, so that's why for a while he decided to leave because it just became too much for him, and it's not because he didn't care, it's just because it became so negative, and he also cared about winning, right? So when you care so much and then everybody kind of knocks you down, to और affect करता है, so that's why he ended up leaving. But then उसके बाद अर्जेंटीना की क्या हालत हुई थी, they were almost not going to qualify for the FIFA World Cup, ऐसा हो गया था qualification stage में कि they might not qualify because हमेशा Argentina Brazil are the best teams, so बहुत easily हो जाता है, but ऐसा हुआ था कि नहीं होने वाले. Then he came out of retirement because I think he had 7-8 months away from it, and a lot of people actually supported him, funny enough, when he retired, because people who were away from the situation saw how, what he was going through. But he came back and he helped them qualify. Last match when they needed to win and they were down 1-0 against Ecuador, and he scored a hat-trick in that game to help them qualify. So he brought them back at 2018 World Cup. It didn't work, but that's when the rebuild started and everything, and which culminated in 22 May. 21 में Copa America, and then 22 में
the
World Cup, and now सब लोग भूल गए, सब लोग Messi, this, that, blah, 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 but people like us who've been Messi fans lifelong, so we've been on that journey with him. हमें पता है कि तुम लोग सब अब ये Messi ये सब कर रहे हो, but उस टाइम पे तुम लोग ऐसा गाली देते थे, कुछ भी बोलते थे, वो same thing जो पांड्या के साथ हो रहा है, very vile things, and like he's so selfish, ऐसे उसको कुछ फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता, he's never been Argentinian, he never cares. I'm like, the emotion that he came out with when he won Copa America and the World Cup, that shows how much he cares. So it's just वही again, like we said, कि with social media and everything, this is just become social media का ही problem है ना, bullying regardless of sport, and everything वो bullying ही चलता है वहाँ पे, तो अभी वही चल रहा है उसमें, so I just think
it's
just
also a very
amplified.
lazy form of bullying, right? You get to sit on your bum and just all you have to do is cut, and you
स्टेडियम में भी
criticize
ऐसा ही है ना,
someone.
तुम हार्दिक पांड्या के सामने आके बोलो ये बातें,
I'm
हाँ,
sure
I'm sure
you
you've
कर
got
रहे हैं ना,
that collectivism.
उनको हार्दिक पांड्या कहीं और मिल गया तो वो सेल्फी करके पोस्ट करें,
सेल्फी ले रहा है.
That's how they.
That's exactly how it is. Actually, this happened in, I know a different sport again, this happened in NBA 10-15 years ago. Because same thing, I don't know which team it was, the fans again, same, being very vile and everything, so एक दिन players का दिमाग खराब हो गया, and 3-4, and NBA players are massive. तो 3-4 लोग गए crowd में और छोपना शुरू कर दिया crowd. It came on the news, everything, and people were criticizing these players and everything, and you shouldn't resort to violence, but everything that they'd been through, they just snapped at that point. उस time पे everybody was like, नहीं मैंने नहीं किया, everybody was playing victim at that point. I'm like, you guys drove them to that point. तो ये चलता ही हर sport में ये लोग करते हैं. This is just an overall thing about crowd behavior in a way, but हर स्पोर्ट में ये चलता है ये आपका बुलिंग, और कोई सामने कोई नहीं करेगा, सामने सबको सेल्फी लेना है, अरे सर अरे मजा आया अच्छा खेल रहे हो, बट पीठ पीछे बिकॉज यहाँ पे कोई अकाउंटेबिलिटी नहीं है ना.
So to come back to Messi also, after he won the World Cup, remember he sent out that message saying that I'm grateful to everyone who supported me as a true fan Exactly.
with me.
So I think Pandya will probably send out something like
So
that for
basically
us. That these are among the people who supported me.
Haan, like honestly, like if he feels down or something, that's the most inspirational person's story to read about. Just go online, read a bit on Messi, तो अंदर से इतना inspiration आएगा कि like आज तो IPL जिताऊंगा मैं 3 मैच हारने के बाद.
Seriously, I hope they start winning because the team needs it.
हाँ,
It's very hard to see their entire team feeling this down and out.
So basically,
क्या?
बहुत podcast joke मारने वाला है.
so basically you either die as a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, or you live longer and redeem yourself and be a hero again.
फेवरेट फिल्म से डायलॉग एक मारना ही था. रोक के रखा था आदमी ने कि ये सही मोमेंट पे ऐसा मारने वाला हूँ मैं.
मेसी के बाद
ऐसा ताली, ऐसा लोग ने घर पे बैठ के ऐसा ताली.
मेसी के बाद बनता है ना वो.
100% yes.